welcome back to Mindy's Sweet Designs. Today's video I am mainly going to be focusing on how I do detail work or items with a lot of layers, smaller items. I'm going to be assembling this cake topper, so I'm really going to focus on all the things that help me out when working with a lot of layers or little details like these. If you find this video helpful, please be sure to like and subscribe. It's really going to help me out as I start off my YouTube journey. So if you want to hear all of my tips and tricks for how I get all of this work done, just follow along. So once you've got everything cut and ready to go, first thing I like to do is put all of my pieces together. So all of the items that I know are going to go with this car, for example, I just kind of stack them together just to make sure I have all the pieces and everything's ready. Smaller pieces like this, I did put this in here right now just to show that I'm grouping them together, but first thing I really love are these little portion cups. I know they're meant for like condiments or Jello shots, things like that, but I keep a stack of them here on my desk and they are perfect for keeping small pieces that you don't want to get lost right after you cut them out. So I usually use one or two of them per project, just depending on how many small pieces I have. So I keep smaller stuff that I don't want to get lost in there for now until I'm ready to use it, which I normally would have done with this, but like I said, for now we're just gonna, for showing today, I'm just going to leave it stacked there. And I kind of just put all my pieces together. And then a couple other things before I zoom you guys in. One thing always important to have is a tabletop or a desktop trash can. It's super convenient when you're doing a lot of small work like this or just a lot of work in general. It doesn't have to be huge because, I mean, your scraps aren't big. There are small pieces of foam that you're cutting. So it really helps to have something like this just here handy, like in your workspace that you can just place your scraps into. Another thing I love to have, and excuse mine, it's terrible. I've had it for quite a while now. I think this was originally like a makeup brush holder of some sort. I found it at the Dollar Tree a long time ago, but I know I've seen several variations of it now. And what I do with this is I use it to hold my glue. I mean, of course, it also has got these I use to pull my sequins out of my bins when I'm doing shakers, but its main function is my glue. It sits in there like that. And it's perfect to have right in your workspace because with a couple things I've noticed is even though I love this glue, it can dry really fast if you're not careful, if you were to like leave it in between working like this. So when you have it inverted like that, it keeps from air from getting into your to the tip of the glue. And then also I've noticed sometimes too, if you leave it too long, your glue's going to run all the way down the bottle and it's going to be a pain. You're kind of like shaking it, trying to get the glue back to the top where it's going to come out. So this is just a really great all around little trick I use. And then also, I guess another benefit of all the glue building up from, because it does, some glue falls out, but this is like years of buildup. So you really don't lose a lot of glue in compared to what you get. Like the benefit out of using this is I have this glue in particular, they come with stainless steel tips and it has to be stainless steel so the glue doesn't rust, or because if you were to use like a regular needle, it would rust in there. What I do is once I do that, of course I don't want to lose this, so I just kind of push it right into my glue residue and it sticks and it stays there. I don't have to worry about losing it while I'm crafting the entire time, and I don't have to worry about my glue drying out. So a couple things there. You might see me kind of reach and put my glue bottle out of camera, but that's what I'm doing. I'm putting it back into my holder. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom you in and we are gonna start on some of these pieces. Okay, so first one I am gonna start with is the little jukebox here. Let me kind of scoot these out of the way. So for items like this, that when it's all done, it's got a lot of detail work to it, it's always best to find pieces that have at least one main big back layer as your guide to go off of. It can get really hard if, let's just say these were like 4 little squares that I had to make sure I glued right in position where it needed to go. And same with this little grate here. And this ends up only looking like a pink stripe, but same for that as well. So try to go for pieces that you really just have to layer as they are, instead of having to measure and make sure you're laying it down right in the precise area. It really helps in the long run. And so I'm just going to go ahead and start. This tan piece here on the table is my back piece, and then this is going to be the first layer. This looks random, but so what I do is I do not like, once you lay your pieces down, small pieces like this, once you glue them, when you push them, that excess glue comes out. And to me, it is really hard once you've pushed it out and got that glue residue to come out to clean it up and make it look nice. So what I do is I usually only use this for like fine small pieces, the back of my hand, and once the glue is on, as you saw, I just kind of dab it on there and release the excess off, and you get, I mean, this glue, you don't need a lot of glue, so this just really helps it get this nice clean finish. And it really is a game changer to do that. So always practice, or not practice, but lay out your pieces first so you know which order you're doing. Because once you've got the glue down on the paper, if you put it in the wrong order and you have to wait and go back, it's going to get ruined. So make sure you have the order of what you're doing first. So that's really all you need. You don't have to overdo it with the glue. It's this, again, this paper crafting glue is the best, but you do have to work quickly. So if you're not quick, it will dry in a place you do not want if you don't move it fast enough. For big pieces like this, you can always grab a scraper tool. If it's got layers, I'm not a fan of going like this over it. I feel like you get a cleaner look if you flip it over and press from the back. That's going to look nicer when it comes to gluing. So now we've got this piece that's going to go on. With little fine grates like this, putting the glue in there, I don't go over every grate because that's just not needed. But, you know, I mean, I did a majority, but you don't have to do it all, because again, I go on the back of my hand like this, and that moves all of the glue around, and that's really, again, that's all you need. At this point, if you wanted to, you could do this one raised to give it a little dimension, but I think I'm going to leave it like this and just have this piece raised. But that is always an option. You could do it that way if you prefer. Okay. Now again, from the back here, I'm going to go ahead and press down. Okay, all good to go. And now for this one, like I said, I'm going to do it raised. So I'm going to take my thin foam strips. When I first started, I thought you needed foam in like every little corner, every little piece, and it's just such a waste of product. You really don't need it all over. As long as you've got a good support on either right or left, top or bottom, as long as it's evenly distributed, that's all you need. Set that right there, give it a good push, and there we go. We have our jukebox done. So now let's move on to the next one, something a little more simple. I'm going to do this poodle from Poodle Skirt. You could, if you wanted, to do foam on the back of this, and then on here, and then on here. I'm a big fan of at least the first layer being glued down. I feel like it does, instead of it all being raised, it's got dimension of a little bit of being flat, a little bit being raised, but personal preference. Again, I feel like right in the tail there, I don't want any of that glue coming out, so I'm gonna dab it, place it on here. This on the back was shimmer paper, so it does give you a little more wiggle room to move your items longer, but not by much. And now on this piece, I'm gonna go ahead and raise it onto this pink foil here. So again, like that, that's really all you needed. If you wanted, we could add in a piece there on the tail just to be sure, but that's all the foam you need. Go ahead and peel it all off. Oops. Okay, and there we go. A good thing to do also is on the computer, literally right behind me, I have my Cricut Design Space open, and I've got the cake topper up and open that I'm working on, so I can make sure, you know, if I need to verify any details of it or what I'm looking, I just kind of glance over my shoulder. So now let's do the car. And this again is a good example of why I feel like these big layers like this are the best way. And also it looks nice. It looks nice and sturdy. It looks, you know, heavier than just these little pieces glued on there. So like the wheel, for example, or the steering wheel, it's gonna show up once I put that on there, instead of me just cutting this little piece out and then having to glue it, and it's a mess. Now this piece I did do as like an offset, so it's going to be wider. So I'm going to raise it onto this iridescent piece. So for now, I'm just going to work on the black piece. So let's go ahead, get this one glued on. For pieces like this little bit of glue that's come out, it does bother me. I do notice it. And easiest thing to do is grab one of these. This one is a dual-ended, so it's got this ball tip on one side. This is from the We Are Memory Keepers collection. And then it's got this pointed side. Just run it along the edge, and the glue comes right off. A lot of people make these. You can find these even at the Dollar Tree. These come 2 in a pack from the Dollar Tree like this. They work perfect for that too. So again, you just take it and just run nice and quick, and it'll pull that glue off and makes it a nice clean edge. I really like doing that to kind of clean up my products. So now let's keep going. Let's go ahead and do this one. This car I did find in Design Space, and the thing I love about a lot of the images you'll find in Design Space is, see, this one's got almost like cut lines. They're guidelines for some of the pieces that are going to go on here later, which are great because you don't have to guess, and you're going to lay them in the same spot in the right proportions every time. So let's go ahead and get this one adhered. Give it a scrape from the back. Oop. And see, that moved a little bit, but it's going to be totally fine. This piece is going to go over it like that, but I can easily adjust that. So that looks good. I'm going to give you a little scrape on the back, and now I'm going to add in these small details. When it comes to really small stuff like this little emblem here and then the headlights, always recommend using a pair of tweezers. Any kind of craft tweezers. They have a ton of them on Amazon, all different kinds. And you can even find like really fancy ones at Hobby Lobby and Michael's, things like that. And again, this is where these cut lines come in, because it shows you exactly where you're going to be laying your little piece here. and no guessing, and that way it's going to be centered and look correct every time. And then again, I've got my I've got 4 headlights on this car, and I have them here mixed in with some letters I'm going to use later. So let's just go ahead and pull those out. On shapes like circles or squares, when you know what the outline of the shape is like this, that wouldn't have been as easy to do what I'm doing now. But for circles, I'll just put the glue directly on instead of bothering with putting it on the back of such a small piece. And then let's go ahead and just lay these on. The only difference with this, or the only thing that to note with doing this way, is you will get how the glue is coming out because you're not able to wipe off the excess. But again, you just use your little tool and get that fixed. Glitter paper is very forgiving, so I could definitely press like that and it doesn't come up showing on the paper really. You don't have to do much scraping, but like this paper it will. So I'm just gonna scrape around the edge there. Make it nice and clean. Okay, so that's the base of our car, and then let's go ahead and adhere it onto this. There we go. Finished piece, and now let's move on to the next one. Let's go ahead and do these letters. So these is all my letters. When I can, I recommend welding your letters, especially if it's like a curved font or not necessarily cursive, but like this one is, I guess technically it could be a cursive, but the letters I shortened the space in between so that I could make it one big piece. Of course, with certain letters, there's just no way you can do that without it looking like a mess. But this one was pretty good with me being able to just connect them. So I welded it so it's just less pieces and it's less risk of you not spacing them correctly or issues coming up with the letters not looking all aligned properly. So once we've got this one ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do, because again, this would be counted as my first layer of glued onto, and then I start the foam. If you wanted, if this is too thin of an offset for you, you could totally glue this down this way. Heck, I've even done where I've glued all the way and just made it a flat piece like this, because sometimes it's just what the design calls for. But this one is going to be made to look like a diner sign on this, so I kind of want a little bit more raising. So now we've got our diner sign, and this one is going to go right on top of this here. So I'm just going to go and glue this down real quick so it can be ready. Careful when working with foil, because this is one of those papers that will show all of your glue residue. So an easy way to get that off is once you've used your little precision point here, be careful with this because it can scratch this material. Once I've gotten right up to the edge and made sure I've cleared out any of that buildup, I will take a Q-tip. These specifically have a, one end is pointed, and this, you can just rub right on this material and you'll be sure that you won't scratch it. And it cleans it up really nicely. I'm not worried about the inside of the circles because I'm going to cover up those here in a second. And there we go. So now for that, I think I'm going to put, I was going to leave it blank, but the more I looked at it, I'm always looking for ways to add a lot of dimension, just a lot that makes, when you have all these different textures and dimensions into any of your projects, whether it be cake toppers, banners, cupcake toppers, centerpieces, the more dimension you have to it, the more it really stands out. So I am going to add rhinestones to mimic little light bulbs where these were. And I'm just going to use the same glue here. I do 2 at a time. Now for this, for when it comes to rhinestones, I usually don't pull off any excess glue. I try not to smush it down too hard, but I secure it enough so that all of that glue can help it, just to be sure it stays nice and secured down on there for you. Okay, so I'm going to use my little dauber here. I'm going to grab a couple. That looks so cute with those rhinestones. It's going to add a nice bling to the topper, and it really kind of makes it more emphasized that they're meant to be little light bulbs. So that is what my completed sign is going to look like. So cute. Okay, on to the next one. Here we've got a sundae, and again, I'm a big fan of offsetting, which is when you, this is the size, this tan is my final size of my item, and in Design Space, I offset it to make it a little bit wider all the way around so we can add a second layer to it. And it depends on the design I'm going for. Sometimes I'll add like 2 or 3 offset layers, similar to what I did for this. So this is just the letter itself, and then the first offset was the pink, second was the blue, and then third was the black. And sometimes I'll do that for big shapes, but if I don't want it to look too messy or too congested, if I've got a lot of pieces going on the topper, I will only do 1 or 2 offset layers at the most. So let's go ahead and get this one going. So this is going to be to make it look like it's swirled, and then my guide for my cherry and my straw. This is a little small for putting the glue on, so just be careful, because even though we're going to dab off the excess, you still don't want to do too much, and sometimes there's no saving it from becoming a big mess. But if you wanted, you could put glue, and if you're not a fan of this, if it like weirds you out, or if you don't like, getting glue on your hands, things like that, you could use a piece of wax paper. You could use like freezer paper, things like that. It just, to me, this is easy because I hold my hand still and I dab it on. With the freezer paper, you'd have to have one hand holding the paper and then one doing this. So personal preference, you know. See, and again, like I said there, see if you noticed, I put too much right here, so it came out on the front side, which I'll have to clean up, but just be careful with really thin pieces like this when you do the glue. So I'm going to take my tool and see, you can see a lot of that residue, and then look how nicely that cleaned that up. That is going to get covered by the cherry, but regardless, I'm still going to clean it up. And there we go. Okay, so now let's add on the little pieces, which are going to be the straw and the cherry. Oop, a little clump there come out. Okay, ugh, that is just so cute. Okay, so that is ready. Let's go ahead and add the foam and layer it up. And there is our adorable milkshake. Okay, and now let's move on to the next piece. These sunglasses are going to be put on acetate because they're going to look like they're floating in the corner top of the cake topper. That's again another feature you can add, something different you can do to your cake toppers. So I'm going to build all my glasses first, and then I'm going to put them onto the plastic second. Now, these glasses have this little detail, so it's going to look like a shine on the lens. So that is why I've got the white layer underneath, so it can have that detail coming through. Now, I know that this side doesn't have the shine detail on it because I only wanted it to look like it's sparkling from one side. So I didn't technically need the white circle that I put down here, but with it being layered like this, you can tell. You can see the layers, you can see the thickness, like when it's, especially just looking at it, you'll be able to tell. So just to make everything even is why I still put the white circle on this side. So those are my cute little glasses. And let's go ahead and put these on here. I usually just use foam tape. Once in a while, I will glue the item down to the actual plastic here, but these I want to have more of a floating look, so they are going to be raised up off the plastic. Now, if you do just the front side, I recommend doing the foam as neatly as you can. Try to make it look even, because if it's going to be seen from the back, let me adhere this and I'll show you. So this will be sitting on my cake topper like this on the corner, but if somebody were seeing it from the back side, that's what they see. They're going to see the foam and exactly where you placed it. So even though it is the back, I'm a big believer in just because it's not going to be super visible doesn't mean you shouldn't still do it neatly and nicely. I always say you want your work to be a reflection of you. So if you're selling these, even if you're gifting this to somebody, the last thing you want is it to look sloppy. So if you are going to do just the foam, make sure it's neat. Me personally, I always put a solid piece on the back so it covers up the entire thing. Now, I'm just using plain black. I'm like, there's no point in wasting black glitter, but I am going to put the foam just like that on the back side so that from the back, this is what somebody sees, and then from the front, that's what they see. Looks a lot more clean in my opinion. It's just, again, my personal preference. You just line it up exact there, and there we go. Okay. So now that is all of my pieces except for my big center, which is the vinyl record. I did do my first video on my channel is more in detail about the shakers. So I'm just going to go ahead and speed through this process of doing the actual shaker bit. But before I do that, I am going to show you one thing. So this record, for example, came with this piece. It cut like this, right? Because I need this middle circle. I do not need this piece. It's going to get thrown away. But I keep them because, so let me go ahead and glue this down and then I will show you. You want to keep it as your guide. Okay, I put way too much glue on that, so let's clean this up. Gives a good opportunity to show you how I clean this because you want to be careful. Don't want it to get too built up. So I'm going to use my scraper, scrape it all down. Just move slowly with this because if you move too quick, where it's a lot thin of glue is pretty secured by now. Over here, it's not. This could stay still. That would shift. It's going to mess everything up. Then pick it straight up because you're going to get glue on your base from doing that, from where it came around the edge. So you don't want to smear it. And then this is where you would use this tool. So I go right along the edge on the inside there, and it releases right up at the front. You might have to give it a few seconds just to let it fully dry. But, kind of, once I've got a good bit of it off, use my fingers, wipe it again, and then go back another time with this tool. Get it right up against the edge. And now, what I love to do on every single topper is alcohol and a little cotton ball. Just put it in these sprays. These I find at the Dollar Tree, and I just fill it up. I buy a huge container of it off Amazon. And I keep it in a spray because that's really all you need. I keep it in a spray bottle because you just need a fine little mist on your cotton ball. And then let's go ahead and do this front. If it's a really, usually they're not this small, like shakers that I work with. So I use a cotton ball, but with this being this small, you could definitely dampen a Q-tip like this and then get right up in the edge there. Whatever's easiest for you to work with. And then see how it is making, it's getting my paper wet, but do not worry about that. It will dry pretty much within a few seconds here. And there we go, all cleaned up. I'll go one more time for good measure just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so like I was saying, I'm going to have this piece in here. This is fairly simple to eyeball, but if you're like me and you want everything to be exact, I keep this piece, you just lay it in there as your guide. Then you can go ahead and glue, just lay it right in there. You can pick this up as you're doing so, and there you go. Always do these kinds of pieces before you put your foam to raise to make your shaker portion, just simply because it's more difficult when you've got your item up off the table and then you're trying to like push down on it. You could bend your pieces right here, all of that. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to speed the process of me filling this shaker. So give me just a sec here. So now that I have my record done, it would normally be time to assemble, but I actually realized that I was missing the name. So let's go ahead and do that one real quick. So like this, again, for example, since it was cursive, I always love it when you can just make it one big giant piece. Makes it so much easier when getting it all secured down. So for this, I noticed immediately I start to put it down and I'm going to and see how this piece can kind of go away. Well, this is pretty sturdy on this side. So if you have issues, trouble with getting it all to lay flat, kind of raise up the letter that's giving you the issue and lay these first. And then you can kind of just gradually lay it down. Even if it were, say, let's just say this R, you could hold all the way up from here, hold it up and lay the THA down first, and then your R will guide into place. So you kind of let the piece do the work for you. And that way you can make sure you didn't lay it down all sideways. This foam is a slight bit forgiving, so if it was a little bit this way, you could really push down and then to the side of which way you want the foam to go, but it doesn't budge a whole lot. So there's not too much room for error. So now I have all of my pieces to get my cake topper ready. And there we go. It's gonna be so cute. So I'm gonna go ahead and assemble this off camera. I'm gonna make a separate video on how I put everything together, how I layer it, how I would use foam, where I think you should use double-sided tape, etc. All those different things that I've learned along the way of the best way to build your cake topper. But this video, again, was just about the detail on putting your pieces together. So let me go ahead and build this off camera, and then I will come back and show you the final product. All right, so here is the fully assembled cake topper with all of the pieces that you just saw me make. I know toppers like this are definitely a lot more work. All of the detail is a lot, but in the end, it really pays off with all of the different textures you can use, as opposed to if you just did a print and cut image. I've got shimmer cardstock in here, I've got the glitter, Of course, I've got the flat colors, and then we've got rhinestones, and we can add the floating effect with our acetate. It's just really, really pays off well. So thank you guys so much for following along. I hope this video inspires you to try to do more detailed work, or if you've been scared to just start and don't know where to start at, I hope you give this a try. I hope you give practice to some of the more detailed work that you might see. Cricut Design Space has a lot of really great images. Every single one of these more detailed pieces, aside from like the lettering, came from Design Space, so they offer some really great pieces for you to get started. If you guys have any questions over anything that I showed you in the video today, please leave it down below in the comments and I will get back to you. And thank you again for following along, and I will catch you guys in my next video.